Welcome, everyone. I'm glad you're here. If you're listening to this, you're likely someone who holds space for others. A therapist, counselor, social worker, nurse, case manager, a community healer. And right now, holding space is not a neutral act. It's happening against a backdrop of political violence, uncertainty, fear, and a collective nervous system that's running hot. So before we go anywhere, I want to name something clearly. Emotional regulation is hard right now, even for the helpers, especially for the helpers. You're not failing if you feel overwhelmed. You're not unskilled if you feel exhausted. You're not alone if you're struggling to stay grounded while supporting others who are scared, angry, grieving, or destabilized. This episode is a space for you, a place to breathe, recalibrate, and remember that your humanity is not a liability in this profession. It is part of your strength. And before we go deeper, I want to name something with care and clarity. Our field is not and cannot be apolitical when we are upholding our professional ethics. This doesn't mean taking partisan positions. It doesn't mean that we're choosing to align with a political party over another. It means acknowledging that the conditions affecting people's safety, dignity, and their mental health are shaped by the systems we live in. It's shaped by policies and social realities. And our ethic codes don't just quietly allow us to recognize it, they require it. For example, the National Association of Social Workers Code of Ethics calls social workers to advocate for changes in policy and legislation to improve social conditions and to promote social justice. It also emphasizes our responsibility to ensure access to needed information, services, and resources, and to again challenge social injustice. The American Counseling Association Code of Ethics states that counselors should advocate at individual, group, institutional, and societal levels to address potential barriers and obstacles that inhibit access and the growth and development of our clients. And it highlights the duty to recognize and address the role of systemic and institutional barriers that affect client well-being. These aren't political stances. They're ethical commitments to human dignity, equity, and care. So if you're feeling the tension between wanting to remain neutral and recognizing the real-world forces impacting your clients, know this. You are not imagining that tension. It's built into the work we do. And it's okay to feel the weight of that. It's okay if emotional regulation feels harder right now. It's okay if you're carrying your own fear or uncertainty while supporting others through theirs. It's okay if you're tired. In times of collective stress, helpers often carry two layers of emotional load: your own fear, uncertainty, and grief, and the fear, uncertainty, grief of the people you serve. This dual burden can create compassion fatigue, hypervigilance, emotional numbness, difficulty accessing hope, a sense of isolation, a quiet belief that you, as the professional, should be coping better. But here's the truth. Your nervous system is responding exactly as a human nervous system responds to prolonged instability. You're not meant to metabolize this alone. You're not meant to be endlessly steady. You're meant to be supported too. Before we dive in, I want to share a little bit about who I am and why this conversation matters to me. I've spent over as of this month, it is year 26 of my career in mental health, starting out as a family support specialist. And then once I finished my master's degree, moving into being a school counselor, as well as a part-time professor for a university within the counseling program that I graduated from. Then I moved into a coordinator of our school counselor program. And finally, after massive budget cuts and a very similar, yet not as intense, political environment that we're living in now existing at that time, I spent a year teaching middle school science, which was an entertaining thing on its own. I also have been a therapist, case manager, dedicated case manager, peer support, family support position, all rolled into one with a caseload of 150 members. Yeah, that's not an exaggeration. 150 members. And then I burned out, and I had a really difficult time being able to take care of my health, which had already been struggling with since I was young. I've had chronic health issues most of my life. And at that point in time, because of the intensive stress that I was working under, and even knowing all this information about burnout and how to take care of yourself and thinking I had a pretty good self-care routine down, I crashed and I was out of work for a while. I was not able to physically work. I was on disability for a short period of time without actually getting the disability designation. So I was unemployed, disabled, and not bringing in any money other than the short period of time I was still eligible for unemployment. During that time, I was helping my husband run his business, and I was also substituting. Once my health got back into better condition, I went back to work in the mental health field, and I became a clinician for an agency that worked in group homes as well as outpatient care. And a lot of the work that I did was centered still around therapy, but I also did some of the precursors to what is now ABA by doing functional behavior assessments and behavior intervention plans for the individuals living in the group homes as well as other group homes throughout our community. Then I moved strictly still within the same agency as just a therapist, then eventually a team lead while still maintaining my therapeutic caseload. And then finally, the program coordinator, which was essentially the clinical director of our site. Our agency closed during the height of COVID, which was devastating at the time because while I was dealing with that, my dad also passed away. And I was struggling with some other health-related issues too. And my mom's worsening health condition as she is aging as well. Moved to a new agency, though luckily within that same time that kind of absorbed us, and I became the clinical coordinator of that site, and have now since continuing to work towards my licensure, which was stalled off and on over those years with multiple supervisor changes, finally became an LPC after having my LAC for nearly 13 years, working on those hours. That's a whole other podcast all on its own. But I then became the clinical supervisor and now just recently clinical director. So I've supported clients and their families across multiple settings, from working within their homes, in the schools, in the community, in the office, as a supporter on more the administrative side and working with stakeholders throughout our community, including the insurance plans. And I've served in roles, as you heard, across multiple things, from being in the trenches to having to help navigate those who are dealing with us on a day-to-day, working out in the field and working with members directly. So like many of you, I've navigated the emotional weight of this work while trying to stay grounded in my ethics, my humanity, and my own nervous system. I've seen firsthand how current climate impacts both people we serve and the people doing the serving. Like I said earlier, I experienced this early on in my career under a very similar political climate when I lost my job because of the cuts that we are facing even again now today to a much bigger extreme. So this podcast is my way of offering support, of offering reflection and steadiness to those of us who hold so much for others. 2 years ago, I started a similar podcast focusing predominantly on tools and techniques to help prevent burnout and vicarious trauma. And I took a break from it just because I wanted to focus kind of more on my meditations and a lot of the somatic work that people were asking for more of. But with everything that's going on, I decided to revisit that same podcast in this new format and really truly focusing on how to handle the weight of what we're dealing with. So let's begin today by naming the invisible emotional weight that helping professionals carry during times like these. Let's take a few minutes for a somatic reset, something you can use in between sessions, in your car, or at the end of the long day. Now, you'll notice as we talk about some of these different things, they're going to be very familiar for you because the self-care that we need to take for ourselves is identical to the self-care we teach our clients on a regular basis. So let's start with a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding. So wherever you are at right now, notice 5 things you can see. Let your eyes move slowly around the room, take in colors, shapes, textures. Let your body register, I am here. I am safe enough in this moment. Notice 4 things now you can touch. Perhaps it's your clothing, the chair beneath you, your feet on the floor. Let your body feel supported through your touch. Notice 3 things you can hear. The hum of a fan, distant traffic, the sound of your own breath. Let sound anchor you. Notice 2 things you can smell. A candle, your soap or lotion, the air itself. If nothing stands out, simply notice the neutrality. And lastly, notice 1 thing you can taste. The lingering flavor in your mouth, or simply the sensation of your tongue resting. Let your body take in the message, I am in this moment. And now we'll move to step 2 of unclenching our body. So allow your jaw to soften. Perhaps you may need to take a wide yawn to allow it to just relax. Maybe you might even need to place your hands on your face and give a gentle massage. And roll your shoulders up and drop them back, allowing them to relax and soften themselves. You may need to do this a couple times to feel comfortable. Uncurl your toes in your shoes and give them a little wiggle. Uncurl your fingers and wiggle them. Let your belly expand with your breath. And now we'll move into the long exhale breath. We'll inhale for a count of 4 and exhale for a count of 6 or 7, whichever you can do best. If this type of breath is difficult for you, simply notice the rise and the fall as you inhale and exhale. Let the exhale be your anchor once again in this moment. So let's do this first one together. Inhale through the nose, 2, 3, 4, and exhale through the mouth, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, do it 2 more times. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. And move now into some micro movement. Roll your wrists, and one hand at a time or both together. Just nice, gentle circles. Choose whatever way feels most comfortable for you, or perhaps even explore doing it one way and then shifting towards the other. Now lift your feet off the ground slightly, perhaps again just one at a time, and do the same with your ankles, circling them. One direction, then the other, one at a time or both together. And once you are done with your feet, place your feet firmly again back on the ground. And now stretch your arms up overhead as far as you can, as far as it feels comfortable. Movement is never about stretching beyond your ability. It's about doing what just allows you that gentle stretch, that gentle pull. It gives your body some of that tension relief. When you're ready, go ahead and stretch your arms back down. And let's do this again now, letting our breath be the guide. So inhale, arms up. Hold for a moment and stretch a little farther if you can. And exhale, arms down. And one more time, I'd like for you to explore just a little more movement at the end. So as you bring your arms up just as far as you can, try to reach further. Perhaps you reach towards the ceiling with one arm and then the other. If you can't get your arms all the way up, perhaps you lift towards one wall, then the other. And when you feel ready, go ahead and let your arms drift back down slowly to your sides. By these micro movements, we're letting our body complete the stress cycle in small, doable ways. And now we will move into a simple grounding statement for our final regulation skill. So choose one of the following to repeat silently to yourself. I can meet this moment one breath at a time. I don't have to hold everything at once. I am allowed to be human while I help others. Whichever one you choose, repeat it softly to yourself a couple times and let the words settle. Let's take a moment now to realign ourselves with our ethical principles. So place a hand on your chest or on your belly. Take a slow breath in and a long, gentle breath out. Now consider this question gently, without judgment. What part of my ethical commitments is asking for my attention right now? Maybe it's your commitment to client dignity. Maybe your commitment to justice. Or your commitment to do no harm. Your commitment to truth-telling. Maybe it's your commitment to compassion for others and for yourself. Let one phrase of your commitment rise to the surface. Hold it lightly. Let it guide you, not as pressure, but as orientation. With your body a bit more settled and your ethical compass hopefully gently in view, let's explore some more skills that can help you stay steady while supporting others. These are important skills that help you stay grounded without bypassing your own emotional truth. We'll start with dual awareness and recognizing that we hold two truths while we are working with our clients. That first, you are impacted by what's happening. So state that to yourself, I am impacted by what's happening. The second truth is I can still show up with skill and presence. So bring that awareness with you every day. The second skill is recognizing that we need to set very clear boundaries for our own emotional safety and support. You don't have to absorb what your clients feel. You can witness and observe what's happening without carrying. So try silently repeating these during sessions. This is their story. I am here to support, not to hold. Or find that emotional boundary statement that works best for you. Regulating your own pacing is also a very important skill. Slow your speech, especially if your client is emotionally volatile during that time. Slow your breath. Slow your gestures. Your nervous system sets the tone for the pacing of the room. Another important skill set is micro transitions, and this is recognizing that between sessions, take that 30 to 60 seconds to allow yourself to reset. Shake out your hands, step outside, take a sip of water or coffee or tea, place a hand on your chest and notice your breath. You can do these even with your client present as you're perhaps walking them back to the waiting room, or if you work telehealth, take a moment before you log in to the next client. Or as you're walking back to your own office after dropping off a client in the waiting room, take this time for yourself. These tiny resets prevent emotional accumulation. And now I want to guide you into a compassion practice, one that honors the people and the communities most impacted by the current moment. So again, place a hand over your heart or your belly or both. And picture someone or a group who is deeply impacted right now. With them in mind, offer a simple, steady, compassionate phrase. May you feel supported. May you find moments of safety. May you be surrounded by people who care. May you have what you need to endure this moment. And as you offer this compassion, recognize that you are not fixing. You are not rescuing. You are acknowledging their humanity and your own. I encourage you now to give this compassion now back to yourself as well. So let's simply change those statements slightly. May I feel supported. May I find moments of safety. May I be surrounded by people who care. May I have what I need to endure this moment. You deserve the same compassion you extend to others. As we come towards the end of our time together today, let's bring that focus further back to you, to your limits, your humanity, and your right to care. So a few reminders. You are allowed to set limits. You're allowed to set boundaries. You are allowed to rest, even if it's just in the small moments as you can throughout the day until you can get home and take further rest. You are allowed to not have all the answers. You can be an expert and still be learning. You are allowed to feel afraid or uncertain yourself. You are allowed to be human, doing your best in a difficult time. And I want to name something that often gets overlooked when helpers are overwhelmed. Supervision is not just a professional requirement, it's a form of care. Supervision can be a place to metabolize the emotional residue of your work. It can be and should be a space to reality check your own internal narratives. It's a container for exploring countertransference without shame. It's a buffer against isolation, even for those of us that are independently licensed, seeking out that supervision support with others at our levels. It's a reminder that you don't have to navigate ethical complexity alone. Good supervision helps you reconnect with your internal judgment, your clinical judgment. It helps you to identify when you're carrying more than your share. Helps to differentiate your emotional material from that of your clients. Helps you remember your values when the world feels chaotic. And it helps you stay aligned with your ethical commitments without burning yourself out. And while many helpers may no longer have access to supervision, as I mentioned earlier, due to licensure, being in private practice, or even systemic barriers, if that's you, there are still ways to stay supported. Create a peer consultation rhythm. Build a reflective practice. Use ethical decision-making models. Seek out reflective continuing education. Identify your one anchor person. And revisit your ethical codes regularly. You don't have to be endlessly self-contained as we work in this field. You don't have to process everything on your own. You're allowed to lean on the structures and the people that exist to support you. Your work matters. Your presence matters. Your well-being matters. So thank you for taking this time for yourself and for joining me today. And as you move back into your day, carry this with you. You don't have to be perfectly regulated to be effective. You just have to be present, compassionate, and willing to return to yourself. Your steadiness is not measured by how calm you feel, but by how gently you come back to center when the world pulls you away. So thank you once again for joining me today. Take care of yourself. You are needed, and you're not alone.